So a little bit about my background and experience. As Catherine mentioned, I am the engineering design manager, and basically I'm originally a Midwesterner, and I got a bachelor's of agricultural engineering, which is a technical engineering degree. It's kind of an obscure version. It's kind of a civil engineering branch from the University of Minnesota in 1981. They called it soil and water. I really kind of became sort of an irrigation engineer. And then I went out for grad school to Oregon State University, where I focused on water resources and energy management, and I got my MS there in 1984. I'm currently a registered professional engineer in California and Nevada. I've kind of worked all over the world, which I'll mention in a few minutes. I've really only worked for one company my entire career, even though it's kind of varied a little bit. I started with CH2M Hill in Redding, California in 1984, and we were ultimately acquired by Jacobs, so I've been there the whole time. I was selected as a global technology leader for Conveyance design, which is all things pipes, pumps, canals, tunnels to some extent, in 2006, and held that position up until 2019, when I stepped down to take this position. This is a full-time position, and that position would have been a conflict in my available time. I have a little over 37 years, because I worked a little bit while I was a grad student, in experience. I've always been based in California and Nevada. I spent 8 years on the SNWA program in Las Vegas for a while, but other than that, I've been focused in Northern California. I have a lot of mostly national, but some international experience in a lot of the portions of this project: screened intakes, pipelines, pumping plants, and really all phases: planning, design, construction, operations. I've been involved in all of it. 4 years on site with the Southern Nevada Water Authority. I did all the operations training for the Freeport intake down the road from our project, so a lot of experience there. I do have quite a bit of experience even with Delta Conveyance. I was the project manager for a fast track delivery of one of the CERs back in 2012, when we first changed over to focus on intakes, pumping, and tunnel, the full complete tunnel project. And before that, even, I had helped DWR work with some of the levee issues back in 2010. So I've been kind of around the program for quite a while. Sounds like somebody needs to go on mute. Anyway, I'm currently the engineering design manager, and was originally the intakes lead for the DC-DCA. I was part of the original team. I've since that time picked up some of the South Delta Conveyance facilities. So I'm kind of wearing several hats here, doing the design management, and the intakes is a bigger part of the work than South Delta Conveyance facilities leading that. So that's kind of who I am, where I came from. Next one, please. Some of my more significant projects that I've selected over roughly the last 10 years. And as I mentioned earlier, and for those of repeating for those of you who weren't able to hear, I think it's important for an engineering design manager. Well, maybe I should start with that for those who weren't here before. I'm Phil Ryan. I'm the engineering design manager for the DCA, and we're about halfway through my little leadership spotlight presentation. So these are some of the significant projects I've worked on, and I think it's important that engineering design manager be well-rounded in many disciplines and in many aspects of project delivery. So these show projects that are similar to those required for Delta Conveyance in the various technologies, and they have a breadth of experience from project manager to senior technical consultant, design manager, that kind of thing. I consider myself a very technical, hands-on guy. I do understand a lot of the various disciplines that are involved in these projects. So the one that's the most directly comparable would be the Freeport Regional Water Authority intake facilities, where I was the project manager both the planning and the design phase. It's very similar. It's a lot smaller, obviously, than Delta Conveyance intakes, but it's very similar in the type of configuration that would be used. And it's built in a core regulated levee and uses a similar screen technology. And then similarly, the Natomas Mutual Water Company Sankey diversion, that's not in the Delta like Freeport. It's a little further upstream near Knight's Landing on the Sacramento River. Again, it's located on a core regulated levee protecting the Natomas area. It's not in the levee like Freeport is, but it goes through it. It penetrates the levee with the pipes. And again, it's a fairly good size vertical plate fish screen that's very similar to those proposed. I was also the project manager for 1100 CFS pumping plant, which is the primary, it's sort of the heart for the new Echo Water program over at SAC Regional. Their current $2 billion program to go to tertiary treatment and advanced treatment for nutrient removal. So this is the pumping plant that feeds that whole scenario there. Part of it, like I mentioned, it's multidisciplinary. It includes massive structural things. There's a big channel for redirecting the flow down there, and even includes such things that are as obscure as that biofilter, which is that sort of gray colored square you see there for odor control with advanced media. And there's extensive hydraulic and other operational diversions and controls associated with that. A project I spent a long time on, about 10 years of my life, and continued to work on in various aspects right up until a few years ago, was the Southern Nevada Water Authority project. My main project there was the raw water pumping system, amongst other things, but that had 3 pumping stations from 600, I should say 1100 CFS. There's a 0 missing there. I was the design manager for the largest underwater pressure pipe in the world. It's a 12-foot diameter, 300 PSI pipeline that was constructed under a bay in Lake Mead. It's interesting, today if you went out there, you could do a cut cover on it because the lake's so low, but at the time it was in 80 feet of water. Yeah. And that also included over 5 miles of 108-inch pipe and 2 tunnels along it. I've had some involvement in some of their more recent work involving the new tunnel under the lake and some of their new aqueducts. For the Tarrant Regional Water District, that's in essentially the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Texas, I was the design manager for 3 lake intakes and pumping plants. One of the things that's the most interesting about this is we've been proposing to look at cylindrical T-screens for the Delta Conveyance project. And this project does have very large cylindrical T fish screens on 2 of these new intakes. This one is also interesting, you know, being built, essentially you can see in the picture, they're essentially in the middle of a lake. There's an extensive geotechnical program and extensive groundwater management associated with that project. And then another one I've been working the last few years. I'm still their senior technical consultant. It's a pretty low, you know, a few hours a month right now for the Great Lakes Water Authority, which is the main water wholesaler to all of the Detroit area. They serve Flint. Now that the Flint crisis, they've gone back to Detroit water, but it's all Great Lakes Water Authority. And we're relocating 2 miles of their 96-inch potable water line that goes through a Superfund site. So this involves a whole lot of planning of how to do a really reliable, bring this pipeline that was built in the 60s up into the, you know, current industry standards and make it reliable, and so that they can fix it. It's really old pre-stressed concrete cylinder pipe, and they really had no way to fix it. And our new project will give them the ability to go back in and fix that. So again, this is a summary just showing how I've had various roles in, you know, a whole bunch of different technologies with the screens and intakes, pumping plants, structural geotechnical applications. There's all sorts of controls and other, you know, aspects of the work, training, construction, you know, planning and design. Okay, next one, please. So moving on, what do I do now for you guys? Um, I'm currently the engineering design manager, and as I mentioned earlier, I'm also kind of double hatting as the intakes facility lead and the South Delta Conveyance facility lead. So in that role, I provide the technical management for the DCA EDM team. So I am really surrounded by a great group of people. We got some very knowledgeable and experienced staff that help me. So nothing I say here is done just by me by any means. I couldn't do it without the rest of the team, but I kind of provide the technical leadership for these guys to help them all steer the ship. It's kind of it's a big project, so it's kind of a battleship. You got to be thinking about how you steer it. You can't turn on a dime, so we have to be watching out for that, and we have to maintain consistency between all the different work that's going on. I foster and participate in the QA/QC process, and then help determine the schedules for everybody to make sure when they need to get things done, and staffing, and not just for our deliverables, but for our participation in SEC meetings and other types of support. I participate in the leadership meetings and the workshops that provides support to the entire DCA, DCO team. That includes all the DWR folks that work on the job with us, and the to some extent the PWAs that also participate with us. I have a key role in the SEC. I'm one of the couple of us who do the lion's share of the technical presentations, pretty much from the beginning with the SEC, in providing our engineering to the public. Sometimes we're probably a little bit over technical with them, but trying to bring it down to a level for public consumption. And then I obviously support our executive director with not just with external technical communications. We've met with Congressman Garamendi. We meet with some of the community people that aren't part of the SEC and other aspects like that. And plus we support Catherine with other things that she needs. So next one. Claudia. Okay, thanks. So a couple of the things I've been able to accomplish since we've been here. I've been the lead for the delivery of the draft engineering report for the Central and Eastern corridors, and I think it's important to recognize that's over 50 TMs. You should see it. It's a stack of paper, several thousand pages long, over 300 drawings. And along with leading that delivery, I also did the intake. It led the intake in South Delta Conveyance facilities, portions of that. So you're getting a lot of bang for the buck, at least in my time on that. And I'm currently leading the delivery of the draft drawings, the technical parts of the environmental information templates, and the development of the initial GIS footprints for the Bethany Reservoir alternative. We've done this pretty fast. We're delivering it to DCO tomorrow. So I like to say that it's done. It's not quite done, but it will be tomorrow. We are submitting. So, and then I've really helped, I think, develop a lot of the innovative solutions that we have developed as a team, but have helped drive those to reduce the cost and the impacts of the project to help maximize our potential for success as the project moves forward. And one of the things I really strive to do is provide a certain amount of consistency across DCA's work. So I try and read most of the TMs and look at all the drawings that everybody prepares to make sure that they're all saying the same things and conveying the same concepts. And then obviously I've done a lot of support to the key public outreach efforts. So with that, that's kind of me in a nutshell, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.